Part 4. From Shy Speaker to Confident Communicator. Confidence. That was the one thing I never had. Even after learning to think in English, I still hesitated when I spoke to others. I was afraid of making mistakes. I was scared of being judged. It wasn't about my ability anymore. It was about my belief. So I asked myself another question. What makes a confident speaker? It's not vocabulary. It's not an accent. It's not grammar. Confidence comes from one thing: accepting your mistakes and speaking anyway. The first time I spoke to a stranger. I still remember it clearly. I was in a small shop, trying to make a purchase when a tourist stood next to me. He smiled and said, "Hi." For a second, I froze. The old fear returned. Then I remembered the mirror, my routine, my practice. So I smiled back and said, "Hello, how are you?" He replied, "I'm great. How about you?" I said, "I'm fine, thank you." It was a simple conversation, maybe 5 seconds long, but my heart felt like it was running a marathon. When I walked home, I couldn't stop smiling. I did it. I actually spoke to a foreigner in English for the first time in my life. That small success gave me a new kind of energy. Confidence doesn't come from reading books. It comes from small victories repeated every day. Facing my fear of public speaking. A few weeks later, our school held an English storytelling competition. When my teacher encouraged me to join, I said, "No, I can't. I'm not ready." But she just smiled and said, "Liam, you're never ready. You just begin." Those words echoed in my head all night. So I signed up. For 3 days, I practiced in front of my mirror. I memorized my story, not word for word, but idea by idea. I practiced my tone, my pauses, and even my smile. On the day of the competition, my hands were shaking, my heart was racing, and my mind kept whispering, "What if you forget? What if they laugh?" But I took a deep breath and remembered. I wasn't the same boy who once froze during an introduction. I was the boy who trained his brain, who practiced every day, who never stopped trying. So I walked onto the stage, looked at the audience, and began. My name is Liam, and today I want to tell you a story about how I learned to believe in myself. At first, my voice trembled, but after the first few lines, I felt calm. I made eye contact. I spoke slowly. I told my story with emotion, not as a student, but as someone who had lived it. When I finished, there was silence for 2 seconds, then applause. I didn't win first place, but I won something more important: my confidence. Confidence is a muscle. Confidence doesn't grow by wishing for it. It grows through repetition, failure, and courage. Every time I spoke, I failed a little. Every time I failed, I learned a little. And every time I learned, I grew a little stronger. That's when I realized something profound. Confidence is not about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and speaking anyway. How I trained my confidence. I developed a few techniques that helped me speak with more confidence, even when I was scared. 1. Power posing. Before speaking, I stood tall, took a deep breath, and smiled. This told my brain, "You are ready." It sounds small, but posture changes your mindset. 2. Eye contact practice. When I looked into the mirror, I didn't just practice words. I practiced looking into my own eyes. That habit helped me look at people directly when I spoke to them. 3. Positive self-talk. Before every conversation, I said to myself, "I can do this. I have practiced. I am improving." Confidence is built in the mind before it is shown in the world. 4. Small daily conversations. I made it a goal to speak at least one English sentence with someone every day, even if it was just good morning or thank you. Each small talk made me less afraid. The turning point. After a few months, I realized something special. People had started to notice my improvement. Friends began asking me, "Liam, how did you become so confident?" And I would smile and say, "I just stopped being afraid of making mistakes." That's the truth, not a secret, not magic, just courage practiced daily. One day, a younger student came to me and said, "I want to speak English like you." That moment touched my heart because I remembered how I used to feel, scared, shy, and silent. And now someone else saw me as an example. That's when I truly understood what confidence means. Confidence is not about showing off. It's about sharing your light so others can find theirs. I learned that when you speak English, or any language, with fear, your voice becomes small. But when you speak with belief, your voice becomes powerful. And that belief doesn't come from grammar. It comes from experience, from speaking again and again until your fear gets bored and walks away. So now, every time I speak English, I remind myself, I am not perfect, but I am improving, and that's enough. Because real confidence is not about perfection, it's about progress. One word, one sentence, one brave moment at a time. That's all for today. See you in the next one.